Hi guys, I'm very disappointed with Labour's Scottish MP Ian Murray. He was responding to the Scottish Secretary of State, Alistair Jack's invoking of Section 35 of the Scotland Act to stop the Gender Recognition Reform Bill from moving to the next stage, that of royal assent. Yes, he has that power. So much for a union of equals. Anyway, the excuse given by the Tory government is that it breaches UK-wide equality legislation. But what's interesting is similar legislation already exists in Northern Ireland. Ian Murray here tried some fence-sitting by blaming both sides for what is clearly Westminster stamping its authority. Have a listen.
Both the Scotland Act and the Equality Act are landmark pieces of Labour legislation, establishing devolution and enshrining rights to be free of discrimination in law. Nobody has to question this party's commitment to equality. We passed the initial GRA, we brought in the Disability Discrimination Act, and we got the world-leading Equality Act into law. But clearly, there's a need for laws passed by Holyrood and those by Westminster to interact. And in this case, the trans community need that cross-border interaction to work. Part of the reason that after 25 years of devolution, Section 35 has never been exercised is largely because of the way devolution was set up and intended to operate. Governments with their own agendas, but with a common purpose, working together to serve the Scottish people. Now Scotland is saddled with an administration in Edinburgh that's hell-bent on breaking devolution and a Conservative administration here in London that's intent on ignoring it. Indeed, the Secretary of State seems to spend more time with government lawyers to stop things happening rather than make them work, and the Scottish Government is spending hundreds of thousands of pounds on lawyers challenging laws they know are unchallengeable in order to manufacture political grievance. And in this case, it's the public who are let down. Trans people who suffer intense discrimination will now not see this legislation take effect anytime soon, if at all, and women's rights groups who will likely not see their concerns addressed or their fears alleviated, because this simple truth is that this has turned into a constitutional bun fight. Yeah. I would also suggest that the SNP would be rightly screaming, and they are doing today and would do so in the past, if a piece of legislation passed in this place had implications for default competencies. They would challenge that, and they would rightly challenge that, as is their right.
But they can't veto it. Do you not see the difference here? The Scottish Parliament have written a bill. It's gone through the Scottish Parliament. It's received a majority of support. And now it has to go for royal assent. But that royal assent is being blocked by the Tory Secretary of State. How is that democracy? How is that devolution? You know, the SNP can put in all sorts of protests, can try and block Parliament in Westminster if they disagree with a bill in Westminster, but because Rishi Sunak has an 80-seat odd majority, there's nothing they can do about it. They can't veto any bill that's going through the House of Commons. They weren't able to stop Brexit. They weren't able to stop a number of bills that they disagreed with. They have pretty much zero power in Westminster. They have power in the Scottish Parliament, but that power is limited by the Scottish Secretary of State. You know, the Tories and Unionists in Scotland bang on about a union of equals. But how is it equal if when they push through a parliament, they push through a bill through their parliament? And I'm not talking about the issue at hand here. This is just from the point of view of constitutional democracy even. It's just the point of view of democracy. The people in Scotland voted for a party. That party pushed a bill through Parliament, the Scottish Parliament. It received a majority of support, including members of the Labour Party. And it was blocked by the Tory Secretary of State. Now, I understand that's how devolution works. But don't call it democracy. It's the opposite of democracy. And it's disappointing that the Labour MP here is sitting on the fence, trying to blame both sides, when clearly the Secretary of State, Alistair Jack, is denying people in Scotland their democracy. Whether you agree or disagree with the bill itself, the fact that it's backed by the Scottish Parliament and it has been vetted, and you even have members of the Conservative Party who are saying, yes, it doesn't interact with equality legislation, it's not affecting equality legislation, means that this is, once again, Westminster stamping its authority. Now, the next stage, it will be brought to the Supreme Court or the High Court, and they're going to decide. And this is going to take time. When it was vetted, and you have a Tory minister blocking this. Why? For political purposes. The Tories don't give a crap about equality. Look at what legislation they're putting through at the moment in Westminster that the Labour Party are challenging. The right to strike, the right to protest. The Tories don't give a crap about equality. Not one bit. This is a political game they're playing. And they don't care about the consequences. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.